So are we all ready to start in the next 45 seconds? Gopi sir, Preeti ma'am, Mr. Nixon, Neelam, are we all ready? So we begin. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Leadership Conclave on Physical Literacy, organized by the Indian Chamber of Commerce Young Leaders Forum and Ellen Sports Foundation. I'm Sujoy Ghosh, and I head the Youth Initiatives vertical of the Indian Chamber of Commerce. Physical literacy is a very important topic, especially today, and is the need of the hour. So when a person realizes, at whichever age he or she is, when he realizes the importance of physical literacy, I think his or her perspective towards life changes. We have with us today a set of very eminent personalities who are not only practicing the concept of physical literacy themselves, but are also actively influencing others to become physically literate. Before we get into the formal discussion, may I request Mr. Keshav Bhajanka, Chairman, ICC Young Leaders Forum, for his welcome address. Mr. Bhajanka.
Thank you so much, Sujoy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here with us today. On behalf of the Indian Chamber of Commerce Young Leaders Forum, we are very pleased to welcome you. Today, we are going to conduct the Leadership Conclave on Physical Literacy, and we are proud to be able to host it along with you all. Before we get started, I'd like to convey my sincere appreciation to all who generously helped us make this conclave successful. We couldn't have done it without all of you. The lack of physical literacy among children across the country and the world alike has resulted in people leading a sedentary lifestyle, which in turn causes a number of downsides such as obesity, diabetes, mental unrest. If some of you are wondering what physical literacy is all about, you're not alone. While the term physical literacy merely talks about the acquiring and development of physical movements and the skills that go along with it, such as running, throwing, catching, or even hopping, it is a much larger issue than what meets the eye. We can define physical literacy as the motivation, confidence, physical competence, knowledge, and understanding to value and take responsibility for engagement in physical activities of life. Poor health and education are inextricably linked. This, along with the fact that the majority of schools prioritize alphabetic literacy and numeracy, leave students without physical literacy, which they need to lead a healthy life. Over the past few years, most schools used all the physical education periods to complete their core subject syllabuses. This, along with the technology-driven lifestyle, absence of playgrounds, dearth of physical education teachers, and a lack of awareness about the importance of physical education, has been a major cause for concern. Today, we have the most renowned speakers to throw some light on this important subject. Let me introduce our valued panelists. Our keynote speaker today is a recipient of the Arjuna Award, Dronacharya Award, and the Padma Bhushan, Mr. Pullela Gopichand, Chief National Coach, the Indian Badminton team. Mr. Gopichand has initiated the Physical Literacy Program with the vision to increase sports knowledge base in India by integrating sports, education, health, and recreation through formal research-oriented training for children. Mr. Gopichand, who firmly believes in the need for physical activity among kids, began to actively work towards bringing the concept of physical literacy into the education system. At the same time, he hopes that his effort would spearhead a social change in the field of education. To set things in motion, Mr. Gopichand and his team contacted the International Physical Literacy Association based in the United Kingdom. Alongside him, the other panelists are Ms. Preeti Patel, a renowned exponent of Manipuri dance, Ms. Neelam Babadesai, Head of Sports, Tata Trusts, Mr. Nixon Joseph, President and CEO, SBI Foundation. The conclave will be moderated by Mr. Kaushik Varun, VJ Star Sports Network. A warm welcome to all our valued panelists today for joining us in this conclave. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. If you have any questions, suggestions, clarifications, or just want to say hi, you can comment in the chat box or raise your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bhajoka. We are indeed honored to have with us Sri Pullela Gopichand, Chief National Coach for the Indian badminton team. He really needs no introduction, and Mr. Bhajoka has introduced himself. So I'm not going to get into anything more because everybody is waiting to hear from him. So I can only say that on Indian Chamber of Commerce and the Young Leaders Forum is happy to have you here with us, sir, though virtually, but hopefully we would be able to host you soon in person in the days to come. May I request Mr. Gopichand for the keynote address, sir.
Thank you, Sujoy. Thank you, Mr. Bhajoka, for the warm welcome and introduction. And a very good evening to all of you. It's really nice to be here. For me, truly to be part of this panel today gives me a lot of pleasure because the three people who are here on the panel, two of whom I know personally through my journey, and Preeti ma'am, who's I've heard so much about her dance and her contribution to dance. It's truly wonderful to be able to hear all of your journeys here. For me, today, what Mr. Neelam has done, or Mr. Nixon has done, is something which is phenomenal. I think for me to be part of this panel today is really wonderful, and I'm really love to hear from all of them. And I'll just share some of my own journey. For the longest period in my sporting career, for almost 30 years in my sporting career, for between 1985 till 2015, the journey was one way. And suddenly in 2015, there was a certain incident which changed my very perspective of sport. And it was kind of funny because for me, sport, and I've seen a lot of success in sport, and whether it's being player or being a coach, it was about finding where the talent is or pushing the talented kids to ensure that they reach the highest levels in the sport. We've been happy that as a player, I've been able to achieve whatever results, but also as a coach, I've been able to mentor and push people to the highest levels. But somewhere down the line in 2015, when I was coaching a young girl who was 13 years old, little plumpish, and she was part of a group of about 30 odd kids. And all I needed her to do was catch a shuttle and throw it back. She actually missed the shuttle, missed catching the shuttle from about 6 feet away. And I was a bit annoyed at, probably I thought it was a lack of attention. And I said, come on, you need to be more attentive. And I threw another shuttle and she dropped that one. And I kind of walked out a bit annoyed, saying that, come on, you can't even do this, forget it. And then kind of she comes back after the session to ask me, sir, teach me how to catch. And this single instant shook my entire attitude towards sport. For me, sport and again on this panel, I have people who live this who live physical literacy. So I want to be as short in the initial comments. But um, for me, playing was about, if there were 10 kids, it was about picking the best kid and pushing them to become the state, national, international champions. And I've been pretty successful at that. And for me, sport for all of us would mean that we talk about winning, we talk about producing great results, and we talk about confidence, team building, all that stuff. Yes, for me, the word confidence was great. And I started looking at kids who were winning, who were confident and walking out. But I suddenly started to look what happens to the others who weren't winning. What kind of effect does sport have on them? What type of confidence do they have? And I realized that the word confidence, sports builds confidence, was something which needs to be cushioned. In a similar sense, the word team spirit. And I wondered and I thought for the longest period that sports builds team spirit, period. But suddenly I realized that when I looked around, some of the sports or most of the sports people end up being very selfish about themselves. Even if there's a pass to the team, it's almost the team's good, which becomes our own win, but it almost ends up that a lot of cheating instances keep happening in sport, whether it's dope or whether it's cheating. I think a lot of those things. So people saying or voluntarily saying that you're better than me, I'll walk out and you come in, would mean that the team's good is what. But when you look at the biggest names in sport, they kind of hang on to their places in teams. And in many team sport, you actually see many of the top biggest names having been kicked out of the sport finally because they don't want to give up their space. So did it really mean team spirit? So I was kind of questioning that. And this was happening for a few months. And in 2015, I kind of at some point after a few months, I put it to the side and said, okay, Olympics is coming. Let me go and coach. And the few months, what I was doing was I was picking up not one or two kids in the group, but every kid in the group. And suddenly saying that every kid, for him or her to be the best of what he or she can be, suddenly became very important for me. And I started at a very rudimentary level to talk about physical literacy in some sense, which would mean that if alphabets in some sequence is alphabetical literacy, and if numbers in some sequence, addition, subtractions, multiplications was numerical literacy, then crawling, walking, running, throwing in some sequence would be physical literacy. And I realized that we as a nation in the last 30 odd years have gone ahead alphabetically and numerically, but actually on physical literacy, we have come down. And that started to bother me. So for me, every kid coming into the academy became very important. I wanted them to be the best of what they can be. And suddenly this whole journey started to be that I would call all of them and would enjoy myself by seeing them being more and more literate. But then the Olympics came, I had to coach the team. And of course, God's grace, we've been able to get back a medal. But when I came back, the adulation which came up also, or the kind of energy it brought to the nation, also made me feel that competitive sport has a great value. So kind of today, when I look back at my entire journey of sport, I would say that every kid being physically literate is very, very important. Why I'm saying this is that when I looked at my own journey in school, I started to realize that we were about 5, 6 of us who were playing sport in school. We would be in the badminton team, the TT team, football, basketball, volleyball, cricket, every team we would be playing. So we would go into a PE class or a PE class, and then sport, they would say we would jump around and say five of us would take teams, we would make the groups, and we were the winners. So we were super happy, but we didn't realize that the rest of the 45 people were not so happy, and they never wanted the PE class. So the PE class was very popular only for five of us. For many of us in the class, it wasn't. So I just reflected back to see my own journey in education. And I realized when I was doing my math, physics classes where I wasn't so good because I was playing tournaments and I was missing classes, I didn't have great interest in them. So when I wrote my last exam of maths and physics and Telugu, I actually said I'm never going to study these subjects again in my life. And that's what happens if you don't enjoy something in childhood. That experience haunts you for life. It's okay, it's maybe okay that there are many subjects in class. If we don't do well or we hate them in life, we can get along in life. But I think if you drop physical education and physical activity in childhood, and that experience makes you lose interest in physical activity for life, it's going to hurt us for sure. I think that became the primary thing which I started feeling about. And I strongly felt that it's not the first five kids in class. The experience of the last five kids in class is what matters. And that started me to say, I need to do something about it. Luckily, at this time, we had a group, and what we see is some part of it. But also, I think growing up, another reflection was that when we start, and today there's certainly a lot of interest in sport, and people talk about sport, people are investing in sport. But when we look at it as a country, do we really have the money to train all of us in Olympic sport? The Olympic stats kind of say that it almost takes about $10,000 for one athlete to be trained per year for an Olympic level training. Do we as a country have that kind of money? And do we actually have that, or do we need to do something else? I think this became very important. And I looked at my own journey, and people talk about sport and what have we done? So suddenly sports becomes interested. Everybody says we need to go learn in a coaching center. Olympic sport, coaching center, shoes, rackets, equipment. One, is it feasible? And second, do we have to do it? And I looked at my own journey. And the biggest lessons in sport were learned in unstructured sport. And typically when kids say we'll go play in the colony or in the apartment, our general thing was, yaar time waste kar raha hai, why don't you go to the stadium and join a coaching class? That's the mindset we have. But think about it. A kid goes out in the apartment, and I remembered my own journey. I go to the apartment downstairs. It's 3:45. Kids have not yet come back from school. I wait. The moment they come, I persuade them to come. Then we all get together, five of us. Then we start playing marbles. And then another three people come. We kind of tell them, we modify the game, we accommodate them. So your team building skills, we both, all 10 of us in the group or 12 of us decide to make two people leaders. And we say that these are the set of rules. So your rules, you're following a leader, you becoming a leader, and you learning. There's no coach happening. So you're learning from watching people. You're imitating, you're watching, you're imitating, you're learning. And the biggest pressure in life, I think for me also, would be in the gully cricket matches or the football final time when you actually have to score the penalty. I think those are pressures. If you can handle those things, there's a lot of things in life you can handle. And we've kind of thought that this is useless stuff. I think even simple things like chorpolis, marampiti, ice boys, I think these are phenomenal things where people learn to adapt, people learn to mingle with them, learn. If you are and since it's Bengal, I think if you have a football and if you're part of a team, and if you first 4 days, if in the gully matches you don't pass the football to anybody on the fifth day, you're the most unpopular one. It's the same thing which happens in teams. In when you go to corporates, and if you don't share and behave like a team, and these are things which sport teaches you maximum. So for me, I think this whole thing is sport is much beyond medals, and we need to move away from medals and think beyond. Medals is one of the benefits of sport, but sport for everybody across the board has benefits. That's something which I think is the basic thread of the physical literacy part. Now, why physical literacy? Physical education, when you're growing up, who handles these things? If a kid can't throw and jump and run backwards, who handles this? Has to be somebody in school, has to realize this. I think the PE is very important. What happens is that, in my experience, the 5 kids who have gone out, when I look at the entire sporting in my own journey, I've had some people who've gone out of the way to help me. And when I look at people around, whether it's Neelam who heads sport in Tata Trust or whether it's Nixon, you find these people who will go out of the way to support sport. In a similar sense, I found bureaucrats, I found teachers, I found ministers who would go out of the way to think that sport is very good for you. But there's a lot of them who would actually say sport is useless and don't support sport itself. These are other teachers, these are other bureaucrats, politicians, press. You have a lot of them like that. And people like us who are interested in sport, we encounter them as bosses, we encounter them as sponsors, we encounter them as decision makers. And the truth is that many of them are the people who are left out as the 45 other kids in class who had a negative experience of sport in life. So for them, it almost feels that sport is useless. It's given me nothing. What it can give anyone? So that fundamental thing. So today, when I talk, I'm talking, and we as the ELMS initiative and what Neelam's doing at Tata Trust or Nixon or the many others who are supporting to make PE an important part in childhood. Parents as an important component, society as a responsible group to ensure that kids start on a positive note. And the proof or the best part of what this journey would be is 30 years from now, if these kids of today are physically active for life. And when I talk physically active for life, I would mean sport, I would mean dance, I would mean yoga, meditation, trekking, walking, gardening, whatever they do with their physical body and mind together. And that is what it is when the definition of physical literacy talks about is the motivation, competence, knowledge, and understanding to take the responsibility to be physically active for life. So this is a journey for each one of us to take the responsibility, whether you're 30 years old, 50 years old, 70 years or 90 years old, to continue being physically active is very, very important. Today in this COVID world, I think we have seen and encountered this more than ever. And I'll stop here because I'm really looking forward to listen to Preeti ma'am, Nixon sir, and Neelam ji for their insights into this. But I truly believe that it's something which is very, very important. And it's probably what I've said is nothing new to any of you, but it's been a revelation for me in my life. So I thought I'll share it. Thank you very much. And we'll be at the end of the session, I think, happy to take some more questions. Over to you, Kaushik. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gopichand. It was a pleasure hearing you, and I'm sure all of us to really understand, and we've actually gone back to our school days, hearing you, and some of the people like us who've been backbenchers as far as sports are concerned. I think this was something that we can relate to. So moving on to the panel discussion, we have us young and dynamic enthusiast, VA Star Sports Network, who is going to moderate the discussion on facility. Eric Stone, please take the discussion forward here. Varun.
Thank you so much, Sujay, and thank you so much, Gopi sir. It's an honor because sharing screen space with you, and then at the end when you say Kaushik, over to you, so my name coming out from your lips feels amazing and great. I wish I could record, but I'll ask for a recording from Sujay itself. But thank you so much for your speech. Was so clear, and we could all understand. It was all clear because when I googled about physical literacy, I got a vague and a fair or a rough meaning, but it was all clear right now. And yes, sports is actually very important, and we always discuss about it, but I don't see people taking steps towards it. But we do have panelists today who are doing everything they can to make physical literacy reach out to everyone. I'll start with Preeti ma'am first. Preeti Patel, she is from the field of arts, and that is importantly dance. And for me, whenever it was physical activity, I used to think sports, wearing a shoe, going out to the field, or hitting the gym, something like that. But actually, I realized physical activity can be anything. Can be doing yoga, can be dance, or different art forms. So, ma'am, if you can explain how physical activity can be done through dance and yoga forms. Ma'am, you're on mute. Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Namaskar and hello, everybody. And it's really wonderful to be here. Thank you, Kaushik, for that introduction. And really, Mr. Gopichand, that was a wonderful opening to this panel discussion. And there was some takeaways that I have from your speech too. And I would like to, take you through my journey and tell you that I am from the field of arts and very, very rigidly trained in the classical art form, in the pure Gurukul, Guru Shishya Parampara. Now, my Guruji, late Guru Bipin Singh, and he was a very strict taskmaster. So I trained in Calcutta, in Manipur, and of course I was also in Bombay with the Javeri sisters. But when did I start dance? I mean, dance is such, it can also be such unstructured activity, as you said, Mr. Gopichand. And I remember when I was 5 years old, my mother, enrolled me in the local dance school. And it was all unstructured activity, physical activity. It was cartwheels and jumping, and the drums were playing or some music is playing. And so there was not, it was really so free and so spontaneous. Now I am, when I talk about, for me, physical activity has to be very spontaneous too. It has to come from within, then it has an effect on the body. And not just, when you have to do it. This is my personal opinion. So naturally, after having gone through that very beautiful childhood and then the training, I opened my own school in 1990. And I had gone, I had studied a lot about our rich heritage, India's heritage, where we have, traditional forms. Of course, the dance forms are there, but we have traditional forms like yoga, the yogic exercises, which are teamed with the breathing exercises, which is very important. It goes hand in hand with the physical exercise. And then, of course, the akhadas. The akhadas were the local gymnasiums, which you will find in all over the villages, where actually you find these from young children jumping around and doing their cartwheels, and then of course then whatever wrestling and all kinds of stuff. And that was very interesting. Actually, if you see our akhadas, they made a lot of, in fact, impact. But over the years, what happened? I mean, where did if you see the if you see the history, the physical activity was so one with the daily lives of the people, weren't it? It was, whether it was farming or it was, the women doing the housework. There were no, people coming in to do the cooking and all that. Or the men did the farming themselves. So there was a lot of physical activity in the daily lives. And over the years, when you had the technology coming in, you had cars, you had the easy, life became easy. And when life became easy, which is good for all of us, the sedentary lifestyle started setting in. And that's when all the diseases and the diabetes and the pressure and all came in, because our lifestyles changed. So when I opened my school and I started teaching, it is then I realized the relevance of physical activity and physical literacy. What was before that? I would go for my dance class, do my dance, Guruji would say, ye karo, wo karo, and we did it. But there was no science. There was no warming up. There was no cooling down. So it all, affected a certain aspect of our physical being. Because if you don't warm up properly, I think all of you who are into sports, you will agree that you need to warm up and you need to cool down. So again, as a thinking dancer, I decided to incorporate these, in my dance school. And so we would start, I incorporated the traditional forms of yoga. We were into martial arts of Manipur, Thangta, so the traditional exercises of martial arts and the breathing. So all that in physical training. To be a dancer is one thing, and to be physically fit is.
I think there seems to be a network problem with you, ma'am. Ma'am, you there? Okay, we'll listen to her when she's back, like when the network is fine. Yes, Shuja, you want to say something?
Yeah, that's what I think to say. We can move on and when she comes back.
We also have a panelist with us today who has completed 35 full marathons, if I'm not wrong. And that's a lot, because when I have been part of marathons, I have always completed those 5-kilometer marathons, which is like the fun marathon, and that's it. And I always wave goodbye to the people who run for those all 42 kilometers. But salute to you, sir. Nixon Joseph with us. He's the president and CEO of SBI Foundation. And so, like, you're really into distance running, and I've heard you took it up lately, like later in your life. So how has it been, like, and how is it working for you?
Good evening, everyone. It is a great honor to be in this panel, especially with Gopi Chandji and other leaders from the sports sector. I joined the bank as fully literate person, but not physically literate. And I should tell that up to the age of 45, I was physically illiterate. It was due to various reasons. Because the days when I was in the school and all, we were taught to focus only on academics, on studies. Because those days it was taught that those who are not good in studies concentrate on sports or waste their time in sports, I will tell you. Because that only was the trend at that time. So I was fully into studies only, first in the universities, colleges, etc., and joined SBI. After when I reached 45, I was thinking that if you continue as a banker, you may not be able to inspire others.
Mr. Nixon, sorry to interrupt you. I'll just take 1 second. May I request you all to please put yourselves on mute? Mr. Deepak Ghosh, I think there is some disturbance from your side. Please put yourself on mute, and a few others. I'm sorry, Mr. Dixon, you can please continue.
So I was thinking that if I continue in the same way, I will not be able to inspire others. Because I have seen sportsmen, athletics, people from the film world, cricketers, all doing things differently and inspiring others. So unless you do things differently, like Pullela Govichandji has done things differently, that is why we feel inspired seeing him. And to be told by another person, sir, you are the inspiration, that is the greatest inspiration anyone can have. So for a few days, I was thinking what to do differently. At that time, the Mumbai floods occurred in May 2005. So I had to go from my office to my home, walking at almost neck high in water. That is the first time I had done such an adventure. I thought somehow I should reach home to pick up my children. So somehow I took the risk. Many places, the water was up to neck level. I reached my home. It took almost, I think, 12 kilometers walk, wading through water. It took almost 5.5 hours to reach my home. I thought that I am not getting exhausted. I was not feeling tired. It struck to me, then why don't I do something similar to it, some long distance running or something similar to it. And then I saw the Mumbai Standard Chartered Marathon advertisement calling for registration. And without knowing what is a full marathon, I registered for full marathon, 42 kilometers. I thought that I should do something different and really different so that all the bankers get inspired. Due to lack of time, I didn't get time to prepare for the run. But then what I did was 2 weeks ahead of the run, I just walked 20 kilometers and just tried whether I would be able to complete 40 kilometers just by walking. The day of the run, I started. After 10 kilometers, I couldn't proceed further with energy. I was fully exhausted. I couldn't, my boys, entire body was aching, blisters. I didn't know what to do. Many people had told me, don't do any physical activities like this. You are too old. At 45 years, it is too old to do any physical activity, and especially intense physical activity. All these things came to my mind at that time. I thought if I surrender at that time, I'm going to agree to what all of them have told. I won't be able to inspire others. I should do something different. And this is something no one had forced on me. I had volunteered. So somehow I am going to continue this. And I would tell that it took 7 hours, 30 minutes for me to complete my first full marathon. But when I got the finisher's medal, that was the first sports related medal in my life. And it taught me a lot of lessons. It gave me the message that if you have determination, you can achieve everything. I started practicing more and I reduced my time to 4 hours, 30 minutes. I registered for Standard Chartered Mumbai Marathon every year and completed 3 full marathons. I got a posting to Tokyo, Japan. I was there for 4 years. That was a big game changer for me in the sense, I saw people aged 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years in Japan, taking care of a lot of fitness. I think one country where there is 100% physical literacy is Japan. They do swimming, cycling, running, jogging, whatever is possible, working out, everything they do. I was so inspired by them. I decided that I will do 2 full marathons per year. And coming back to India, I continued that. And I now do 4 full marathons per year, only because I want to have a physical, mental challenge before me every 3 months. I completed 37 full marathons before the lockdown. And during the lockdown, when many were disillusioned that we are not allowed to go out, I did cover 42 kilometers, not once, 3 times within my apartment, jogging within my apartment. Just to give the message that if you have a will, there is an inspiring way to achieve physical literacy. And coming to physical literacy, after entering into the marathon running only, I began to know the pleasures, the enjoyment of physical literacy. I still tell I am not a great or fast runner. I run to complete 42 kilometers, but it gave me a lot of positive traits. It made me determined. It made me disciplined. It made me optimistic. It gave me the feeling that I can achieve anything. And all these good feelings I have taken into my workplace. And that is the advantage of becoming physically literate. The enjoyment you get there, the good qualities you develop there, you take into your workplace. And your work also improves. In workplace also, you get the feeling you can do anything. There is no challenge bigger before you. I enjoy my work. And I enjoy my running because I'm not putting a pressure on it. As Gopi Chandji was telling, I'm not running for any medal. I'm just running to complete 42 kilometers and just to keep myself fit, just to inspire others to be physically literate and also improve and become a better version of myself. There is no competition with others. I'm running to enjoy. And unless you enjoy what you do, be it bank job or be it running, it will be a big pain for you. And I'm enjoying both of these because I'm not taking any stress that I will complete within 3 hours. I'm not going to defeat or overrun Neelam. It's not my target. My target is just to complete. And I have learned that in life also, we should follow our own pace in achieving goals. Let us not compete with others. Compete is in the very healthy terms. Let us not compare with others. Let us do whatever is possible to improve ourselves and become fit. And physical literacy is very important because in India, we prosper, everyone is going to have the adverse effects of a very bad lifestyle. And unless from our childhood onwards, we are allowed to like physical literacy, to adopt physical literacy, we will be creating a unhealthy generation. Modi ji had told about Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliance. Self-reliance doesn't mean only related to commerce. It is also a message to all of us to be self-reliant. How can we be self-reliant? By being physically literate. And what I have done is just to show to my banking sector employees, my colleagues, that anyone at any age, 45 years, 50 years, 60 years, we can try to be physically literate. And I'm very proud that after I took to it, I made marathon running look very easy, though it is a very, very arduous task. But so we have developed a running culture in the bank, and our SBI also conducts SBI Green Marathon every year. And there is a running culture in the bank. There are thousands of bank employees, their families have taken a liking to running and physical literacy. Therefore, I will tell that in SBI at least 40, 50, 60% of the people are getting physically literate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And like you said, when you joined your work, like you were not physically literate, and that now you are. How you like? How is your SBI Foundation working towards physical literacy? Like, what are the things that you all are doing, like in the grassroots level, or for the kids all around the nation?
See, CSR, if you tell, like a CSR sector, as if we say, much of the funds are not going to sports sector. It's not SBI Foundation, not many of the foundations, mainly because India, developing country, we have a lot of development challenges, and it will be difficult to convince people that instead of taking child nutrition, should we go for sports? That is because we have not seen sports in a holistic way. Sports is not getting medals alone. Sports is indirectly education. Sports is indirectly contributing to health. Sports is uniting people. Sports is giving equality to everyone. So we have to see sports as something related to all the other things. In SBI Foundation, we have we are also supporting sports, and we have decided that sports will be one of the activities which will get a lot of support from our foundation. What we have done is that apart from supporting other foundations like a Marycom Foundation, etc., what we are doing at the grassroots level, we have adopted 50 villages in the remote parts of India. Remote villages, 50 we have adopted. All these places, villages, we have provided them sports equipments. We have, we are trying to encourage whatever local sports is available there. We are also giving them training in yoga. And as I already told, SBI is sponsoring Green Marathon every year. So what we have found is that in a village, if you give a football, it unites the village. Whatever discrimination is there, whatever inequality is there, in front of sports, it is not there. So in all these villages, 50 villages we have adopted, we are trying to encourage grassroots sports. We have given scholarships to children who are doing good in sports. And I'm very proud to tell that in one of the villages in Assam, the girl whom we had given scholarship, she has reached state level in karate. And in various other villages, they have done well. They have reached up to district level in kabaddi. So, grassroots level, if we promote, that will be the best way to encourage or imbibe sporting culture in India. What happens is when we think of sports, we think only about the prominent players in the field. We try to felicitate them. We try to think only about supporting them. That cannot develop sports. We should think about supporting grassroots level children, public, community to develop sports. And that is what SBI Foundation is also focusing now.
So best wishes for that. We'll come back to you with more questions, but we'll speak to the next panelist for the day. We have with us Neelam Bhagavathesai. She's the head of sports of Tata Trusts, and she has been a national level gymnast and also a coach. And I was going through one of her interviews, and she has said that she is what she is today because of gymnastics and rather than her academics. Ma'am, if you can please take us through your journey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, it's indeed a pleasure to be here and an honor to be with all the esteemed panelists here. I mean, I would say, yes, I completely agree with and I stand by the statement that whatever I am today is because of the sport I was in, because of gymnastics, which I was, lucky to get introduced to at an early age in school, because that's where it starts, and I just got hooked onto it, and and that's where I am today. I'm today to be able to be on a panel with such esteemed people like Gopi Chand sir and Preeti ma'am and Mr. Joseph. It's this is why it's only because of sports. Yeah, I don't think so. A bachelor's degree in computer engineering would have got me here. So that's for sure. Which is also incidentally I have, but just not it. As I said, for me the journey has been through gymnastics. In fact, till I was I would say 18, I did not think of any other sport but gymnastics. I had no clue about anything else. I used to eat, live, and probably do everything in gymnastics. But I also was not one of the lucky ones who, was born with those capabilities where I could really excel. I was the average one who, yeah, I mean, I loved it. I know I put in my 100% effort to do whatever I can and better myself, but I knew that, yeah, I mean, I just not there for sitting in the best cadre there. However, and that's where probably that empathy towards the others who were like me, or maybe who were not even able to do, as good as me, was it started from there. And from a young age, that's what attracted me towards coaching. And even when I was playing, I was also teaching others in my own institute, and I just loved it. I mean, so whatever, I mean, frankly, I had no clue what I was going to do after my 12th. I just happened to do engineering only because at that time that was the craze, and everybody was doing engineering. Either it was a doctor or it was an engineer, right? So um, that's about it. I mean, I really look back and say, yeah, that's why I did it. My brother did it, so I said, okay, let's do it. Thanks. But yeah, but something I was very clear on, that yes, I wanted to be connected with the sport, and coaching helped me. I luckily I also got connected with many people who trusted me, who said yes, who gave me the opportunity to say, hey, this is the place. I mean, gymnastics, if you are aware, it's a very expensive sport. Requires a lot of equipment. In my early days, I used to feel that everyone should do gymnastics. So I had this thing that, okay, sometime I need to go to every school and say, hey, why are we not starting a gymnastics class, right? I tried doing that in a couple of schools, and then realized, oh man, the biggest challenges are equipment, cost, space, and the commitment. I mean, of course. That's when that's the when actually there has to be something which is simpler, right? And the next best thing is physical literacy, or I would say athletics, and then physical literacy. And I was also the one who always felt that gymnastics is, in India it's only viewed as an excellent sport, but we all forget that gymnastics is the mother of all sports, and the kind of abilities that you are able to build up in gymnastics, it really helps in any sport. And that's what the foundation based on which I started my institute, which today has around 400 children doing gymnastics. But very clearly we have differentiated them, and we do their assessments. We say we ensure that at a young age, as a toddler, 2.5 to 3 years, we take in children, where we say that we educate the parents and say, hey, don't expect us that don't expect your child to be a medalist here. It's just that we are enabling them to have fun, enjoy the sport, develop physical abilities. And yes, we hope that each and every child that passes through this institute is able to pick up any sport that they want to, whichever they enjoy, and continue doing that for the rest of their lives. So it's really inspiring to hear. I mean, Mr. Joseph, as he said, I mean, yes, you can do anything, and you can develop it. You just have to find out what gives you that kick. What is it that really pushes you or wants you to get out there and do something. Get out
makes
there
you
and
passionate.
physically. Yeah, absolutely. So as Preeti ma'am said, that it's dance for her. This is badminton for Gopichan, the gymnastics for me. I also developed trekking. So it's just finding that right thing for you. And as parents and as environment, what we need to give our children is just that space for them to experience that. As Gopichan had so rightly said, I mean, let them play. That's it. That's all. And actually, unfortunately, yes, in today's scenario, even let them play. Play where it becomes a question. Many of the kids don't come down because of the culture that we've developed. But well, it's up to us to change that, right? Especially as parents. So many times I've heard, as he said, just wasting time. Why are we going down? Just let's go get into a class, and. But I think as parents and as adults, we need to realize that not everyone is going to be. Why do we want everybody to get into? I mean, right? So we've seen movies like Tare Zameen Pe and everything, but we just say and we forget. right? It's important to understand that everybody is not going to get into that race, but it's so important for them to enjoy being active, and just do something which find out that something which is going to make them, do that for the rest of their lives, even if it is gully cricket or just playing a ball or just going for a walk or go to the gym. It's up to us, right? What we want to do. So from our side, I think we just have to enable that and give them that opportunity to just go and do it, whatever it is. So that's what's important. Um, and thankfully, with when I joined Tara Trust, that's given me an excellent opportunity to take it to a next level. I mean, here I was only. Also I had. Work for a physical education company, private company, which enabled us to deliver physical education curriculum to various schools. That's where I really closely connected with physical literacy and understood the real problems with schools. I mean, there are so many. There are some who wanted to, there are some, it all depends upon the leaders. That's what we realize. There's one leader who wants to do something, and then you get all the help and you are able to do it. And then there's those who just want to do it as a tick mark, saying that, okay, here are some spots, just go and do something. But it's important to create certain activities, not just sports, but activities which help provide an environment where every child can feel safe and happy. You create an environment where they are successful in that smaller classroom, that everybody, there's no measurement against somebody else, but the measurement, as Mr. Joseph really said, it's with yourself. How much are you better doing it? And I was lucky to get introduced to this concept of the pedagogy of teaching young children through a Canadian company which was working with us. And that's where we changed that concept of delivering physical education to children, where we say that let them be. You have to stop that competitive things with others, but just improve on your own self, and give them these activities where they really enjoy and start liking doing something, because when you get success, then you like it more, and that's the simple thing with children. So giving them success in smaller units, creating those simpler formats of sports which are easy to play, which doesn't require equipment, which can be, as Gopi really said, catch, play catch, tag that we call it, or there's which, so many of them there, which our Indian culture had it. Just promote them and let them introduce them again, which we used to play, but well, they were just sidelined for sports per se, which requires equipment. Introduce them again and get them connected again to those things which were already there in our culture, which helps us develop physical literacy in children.
And ma'am, the name Tata Trust is also famous for like working at the grassroots level and working for the people out here in the nation. So what are the steps and what are the agendas that you have like in future, like to spread physical literacy?
As I said, Tata Trust really helped us.
Manika Trust, Mr. Kaushik, please give me some time to express my view.
Yes, Mr. Maniklal Shah, we'll come back to you to ask you your questions, but we'll just take a few more minutes. Okay, Maniklal ji?
Yes. Okay.
Please mute your mic. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So the trust, Tata Trust has worked in all the difficult areas or terrains of India. We've gone where nobody else has been there, in the Northeast or in the Jharkhand tribal regions, which have been very difficult to access. We were working there already in various themes, like we were supporting education, livelihood, and that's when we realized that there are certain sports which are played there culturally, where kids are just crazy and just want to, they enjoy playing that activity, and that's when we thought, let's strengthen those sports, and that's how our grassroots program started. So we have hockey in Jharkhand and Odisha, football in the Northeast. Badminton in Mizoram, where we are associated with Mr. Gopichan there. He's a technical advisor. So these places, they were rich with the physical capabilities. Children already had that in them. They loved that sport. They used to play traditionally, and that's what we thought we had to strengthen. But only grassroots also at times doesn't help. You need to have that pathway. because that's what will drive you to get better. You need that one hero, as we say, to push thousands and thousands to take up that sport. As we need one Gopichand, we needed him to create a pathway for so many others who are now pursuing badminton in whatever ways there, and that's important. And so to be able to create that pathway, to have a tiered structure where the talent identified from the grassroots has a way to get up the ladder and get into an excellence program, where they are then really groomed for competitive success. In this journey, also enabling or collecting the players from the region, or the passionate, those people who are passionate from the region for that sport, together, grooming them as coaches, providing them alternate sports careers, so that the parents see it, that okay, there is a, even if my child is not going to be academically great, there is a chance of pursuing this and getting some kind of a career opportunity out of it, because that's important. I mean, whether you like it or not, I mean, ultimately they have to earn a living. So creating those pathways for the children as well as the coaches and the others around is what the trust is focusing on right now. And the biggest, when we grassroots, it's still at an optional level, right? And then we realize that okay, we need to go down deeper, because as you said, it's not just the selective, it has to be everyone. And the only way to do that is through an in-school program, which is the physical literacy program. So it was very happy to connect with the ELMS there, who are now, whom we are partnering with and trying to take the physical literacy to all the schools, government schools within the state. Partnered with, we've implemented the program in Odisha. We've already started that with the government, taking up that idea and rolling it out for all the physical educators of the state. We are training the physical educators, and they in turn, I would hopefully go out and influence the thousands and thousands of children who will now, follow under them, come under them, and hopefully be better physically literate, or better educated to take control or responsibility for their own actions and life, I would say, going on.
Absolutely, ma'am. And I'm sure in coming years, there'll be a lot of amazing sports person also coming out and will make you proud, Neelam ma'am, Gopi sir, and Nixon sir also. And we have Preeti ma'am back.
Yes.
I think we had a network issue and we lost out you midway. So
I
if you can,
know. When I was right in the middle of everything, and the thread got broken. But anyway, to come back to what I remember, I was saying that after I opened my center, a very big change came over me. And hearing Neelam, you spoke so beautifully that who can dance and who cannot dance was a big question. You see, as Mr. Gopichand says, that everybody can do physical activity, and everybody, in my opinion, when we are children, if you remember when you were children, everybody danced. Now dance was the free movement. And when I went to Indian Institute of Cerebral Palsy just to meet a friend, and I saw these disobedient bodies, these disabled bodies, which were struggling to move. And that's when I decided that why can't they dance too? So it was such a eye opener that everybody can dance, everybody can do physical exercise, Neelam, as you said, in their own way. And why not? Everyone has the right to do it, whether they do it in whichever way, whether even if they have the movement of the neck, that's fine, or if they have the movement of the hand, that's okay, because a lot of them were very severely disabled. They were confined to wheelchairs. There was a student of mine who could only move her neck. So fine, I just made her move her neck. So this opened my eyes to this new, that everybody can do this physical exercise. And I had this integrated program in my center where we had everyone dancing together. So it was, and then after half an hour of warm up, they would go into different rooms to to do different specialization. But they started moving together, they started physical exercise together, they started dancing together. So this was really an eye-opener for me. And again, dance and movement can be very therapeutic. When you have done a good workout, I'm sure you all feel very good. You feel so refreshed, you feel positive, you feel, so energized, and you feel, that you can win the world. So that kind of, holistic effect physical exercise has. And I remember when I was at Indian Institute of Cerebral Palsy, they would do physiotherapy, which was very painful for them. It was these exercises. So I, incorporated them in dance and made them do through music and dance. So they never knew, but they were doing all those exercises anyway. So it was very interesting for me to see how physical activity or physical literacy became so relevant and became so important, and everyone got aware. They became aware of it, as we all. At one point of time, we had lost that. We were not aware. We were just dancing. But the fact that it had a certain relevance, which was very important. So this is, what I wanted to add about how physical activity or physical literacy is for everybody, and that this awareness is very important so that we all remain fit. And yes, we have done it at the police academy. We've done it at hospitals, and we've done it with trained dancers. We've done with those who have mental issues, depression, and it has worked very well. So this is, for me, dance, movement, exercise. Absolutely.
Yes, no, absolutely. Even I'll be dancing more now often.
Sure.
But,
and you see how good you feel.
Yes, ma'am, surely. But I'll be dancing alone so that no one can see me. I'm a bad dancer. But it's very important, like any form of physical activity, like this physical literacy, I think it's a very important subject, and people should be aware of that this term. But I have a question for all of you, you all being so like eminent and, like living legends with us. Nowadays, if we see the children, they're mostly busy with, the on-screen time, maybe with the laptop, iPads, or, the phones, or if they are spending time at the playgrounds, it's like when the IPL or ISL is happening, they just buy a boot or maybe buy a badminton racket and they just go play for a day or a couple of days, and they are not able to continue that. So how do you see a solution, or plan to inspire the children, especially at the grassroots level, so that you can bring them out of their rooms or wherever they are in their world, so you can bring them out and get them on the field, or on the dance floor or the stage or the platform or the wooden floor, however. So if we can start with Gopi sir.
Yeah, I think it's a very important question, which doesn't have an easy answer. I think for us, when entertainment wasn't there, other than going out and playing, it was easy. Or when we had television only for maybe 3 hours a day or 4 hours a day, which used to start, I think, at 6 o'clock and finish by 10 o'clock. That out of which half the time was news. So kids' interest was only there for about 1 hour or so. So that was a time it was easy. But today, entertainment is so much available in your hands, whether it's the mobile or the computer. But also the safety is an aspect which parents are so much worried about now, in the sense you want to go out. I would say we went to the stadium always alone. We went to tournaments at 12, but today when I see kids, the parent drops them for training, picks them back, takes them to school, picks them back, goes for a tournament, a parent is traveling. So there is a lot more concern about kids' safety. So I think for one, to give access to all children for safe zones, for doing physical activity would be an important aspect. So it's important that everybody, one, should recognize as a society, as parents, as society, as decision makers, it's very important that everybody has to realize this is important. That's step number one. The second thing is on phones or in video games, the applause is way much too much, in the sense you win something and then you get a badge, you get a clap, you don't lose, right? If you're losing, then you can shut off and start off again. So people really don't like to lose as much. So I think it's very important as teachers and parents to be much more encouraging than what we've ever been in the past. So I think that becomes a very critical issue, in the sense you want them to feel good. And I keep remembering my own coach, Hamid Hussain sir, who was my first coach. He didn't teach me about sport in a way which was like hold the racket like this or hit like this, but he just taught me kind of to come back to the stadium the next day, because I was going back home happy. So I felt like I should come back to the stadium. That's the first step. I think parents should encourage us, say, whatever the result, I think to get to the sporting arena again, the coach should also think that whatever his performance, he should be happy and get a positive experience out of it so that he comes back again. I think that becomes the most critical thing. I think the experience which they have, so that they are drawn back to the arena. And that becomes very, very important. So for me, things to think about would be, we need to find time to say that this is important. And this is not only for kids, this is for each one of us. I think physical literacy is a journey for life, with physical education, teachers and physical education in school and growing up becoming a very important foundation for it. But you can start this journey wherever you are, like Nixon sir has started it off at 45. And that's phenomenal. I know Mr. from the Tata group, Mr. Chandrasekhar, starting his first running when he was about 44. I think these are phenomenal stories of physical literacy. I think people taking physical activity. And I think dance in India is a great form, because I think I have a daughter who just loves to dance. I think we need to take use of this. Somebody likes a solo performance like a Bharatanatyam, somebody likes a Bhangra, somebody likes a Dandiya. I think India has such vibrant, different forms. I think we need to kind of pick on all of those to ensure that kids get great experiences. And as parents and teachers and society, we encourage them to come back and play. So safe, encouraging, happy are the words to look for. And I think once they're hooked onto it, then you can talk about discipline and hard work and sacrifice and that stuff. But I think the first thing is to get them to start on this journey, and going out of the class positively would be very, very important.
So very well said, like getting them closer and then imbibe the passion in them. But Nixon sir, I will ask you, like you started your physical literacy thing in like when you were 45. So before that, like there was nothing that influenced you or inspired you. There was no passion in you. And how can you see like that passion can be influenced or imbibed nowadays in the children? Like who are the important stakeholders or influencers who can really like make the children today take up sports or, dance or any kind of physical activity? So you're on mute. So, Nixon sir, you're on.
I was physically illiterate up to like age of 45 only because like in the schools we were taught that being a good student is more important than being an athlete or being a sportsman. So when we were brought up in such a belief that scoring marks is more important, then I thought this is better. We need not be physically literate. But then over a period of time only I knew what are the benefits of being physically literate. Therefore, the first, I think, people who can bring changes, one is our educational system, where sport should also have a scoring paper. And our teachers who can tell that, who should understand that physical literacy is very, very important. And when a group of children start playing, initially they may not get support from others, but if the teachers, community, parents all support them, the number of children who get involved will become larger. So the awareness that without being physically literate, we will not have a healthy life, fit life, that should go deep into everyone. And I think with the messages which are being spread now with the webinars, with the great movement Gopichandji has taken up and all, it is going into people's awareness that physical literacy is a must. And that is why I think even now everywhere will see cities or religions, people are starting to jogging, going to gym. All these are happening because people have come to become aware that this is important. Only thing is, as a movement we require, like the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, we should require a movement at the national level, all India level, at the grassroots level. That physical literacy is important. It should be given equal importance like academic matters. Then changes can happen.
Great, sir. Absolutely agree with you. And I do have a lot of questions, like a notebook of questions, especially for Gopi sir. But it seems we don't have much time. So, and a lot of people are getting restless to ask questions. So I'll ask Shujoy, should we do that question answer session with them? Because
Absolutely.
a lot of people.
Yes, let us open it up. There are already a few questions which has come in, so you can ask from there. And we could also give voice access to, I mean, they already have voice access. They can ask questions without everybody speaking together.
The first question I think was from Sujit Banik, who wanted to say sports is a part of the physical education subject. And okay, so sports is a part of physical education subject. Sujit Banik has said, and I think Neelam ma'am will be able to answer this very well. Like sports being a part of the physical education subject, like in school or, like in the syllabuses that we have nowadays.
Yeah, it's not there with the new education policy. There's a lot of talk of integrating. So first, I think was removing that bifurcation that it's an extracurricular activity, which thankfully has been removed. So at least in the new education policy, so it's no longer an extracurricular. It has to be within the just as math and English is important, so is sports and physical activity is important, right? So that's the first step. Which now hope we are really looking forward to the implementation of that policy, how it gets rolled out there. And once if that mindset is there, that it's not extracurricular, I also believe that you can really teach many things through physical activity. So many topics can be actually made, and there's research done that through movement, as Preeti ma'am has also said, through movement you can really connect the children, because movement comes very naturally for majority of the younger kids. They are physically active. We just have to use that to communicate or educate other things to them. So you can teach math, you can teach English, you can teach so many things, languages, you can teach physics. When we are using it, there are so many things which can be taught through physical activity. Making it integrated, as we said, it needs to integrate. And when we are doing that, we are developing those basic foundational skills, which are going to make the child confident to take up a sport. When we say a sport, as in something with rules, with a team, with everything. Because as Gopi also said, children don't like to lose. They don't like to show that, oh, I'm not able to play, right? So if we are able to develop those skills, those basic foundational skills, which are a part of physical literacy in the early age of your children, then it becomes easier for them to pick up multitude of sporting, arts, other activities, which can help them pursue it when they are in their secondary schools, or when they're in their teens, when the image and what they do is become so important for them.
That's right. I hope Shujit Bonik got your answer. Then we have Shubhavru Kar and Shujit Bonik almost asking the same question, and it's for Gopi sir. It's like, what is the difference between physically educated person and a physically illiterate person? So what's the major difference between a physically educated person and a physically illiterate person? So basically, Nixon sir before and Nixon sir after. So what is the answer, Gopi sir? Sir, you're on mute, sir.
I think the word physically literate is only come of late. I think when we look at it, I think if you look at India per se from a cultural perspective, we've had our own generations, whether it's akhadas or whether it's the archery or the gurukuls of the yesteryears where they used to teach warfare. I think we've had some or kalari or art forms. We've had a culture of physical um, improvement being taken in from very long time. We've called a physical culture, Aurobindo and the mother spoke about physical culture as very important. You've had Vivekananda spoke about football and said it's better than meditation. That's the kind of words we were. So people over the years have realized the importance of physical activity for mind-body connect and all. So in the past, what used to happen was we didn't have to talk about these things. You know, every kid used to, in the sense, who taught us to jump or to climb a tree or something. It just came naturally because nature was teaching us all these things. But in today's day and age, there's no nature to teach us. And that is where things have fallen back. And we need to get us to start this journey. Why kids becomes important? Because there's no nature to teach them. If there was a pond, if there was a puddle, if there was a tree, they would jump, they would walk, they would climb. I think these things were very natural. So natural things which were happening, say 30 years ago, are not happening today because we are living in a different environment. And the second thing is, it's not that physical literacy is something which you learn and it's done. It's like alphabets or cycling, like you learn and you're done. No, it's not. It's a disposition. It's a mindset. It's a mindset to be motivated, to be competent, to take the right things. Like today, I love playing football, but I think 10 times because I don't want to kind of get myself injured. So there's a time when maybe a few years later, then badminton becomes the tough sport. To have the knowledge and understanding to move away from what you can't do to what you can do in this journey. But eventually it starts off with motivation. You have to be motivated. You have to have the knowledge, and competency. You have to have the understanding of what you're doing. And also you have to be responsible to take this for life. Because when you're 70 and if you're 80 and if you have a hip replacement, when you get up in the morning again and say, yes, I may not be able to move many things. I'm only able to walk, but to actually take it as a challenge, to move from doing an activity to challenging yourself to the next level and enjoying that is what physical literacy. So physical literacy is like a mindset, and that is what would be the key component. I think physical education is a key root, is a foundation, because it kind of makes you understand, gives you that knowledge, understanding, competence. Because if you are able to do these things in childhood, it becomes much more easier later in life to do those things. So this would be kind of a answer from a mindset perspective.
And so we also have Sanjana Karan praising Preeti ji, Nixon ji, Neelam ji, and she says it was a pleasure listening to Gopi sir. And she has shared a huge thought. I went through it and it's very nice of you. I'm not reading it out. And we have a couple of more questions, but the question that I found interesting was Priya Beriwala. She says, Gopi sir, I'm a student from class 11 science, and I feel that I'm afraid of taking part in sports day every year. When the announcement is made in school regarding selections, I think of taking part, but in the end, I don't turn up. How should I get rid of this habit? Because I like playing games, but I'm afraid to do so in a competition. And I'm sure this is kind of a question which will be common, like in the youth today, like they're afraid. And that is what Gopi sir was telling about creating the safe environment.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. I think from a society perspective, I think when kids run a running race, I think it's fantastic for the kid who's winning. He'll want to say that I want to come back and run tomorrow. But what is the kid who's coming last, who's probably not the most genetically endowed or athletically gifted, what do we do with him? In the sense, are kids around, are they encouraging him? Are they saying, are you useless? Or are they kind of encouraging him? Or they, if he falls down or she falls down, whether they go help him up? What is it? So I think so much of these things can be taught in terms of values when through physical education and sport, that it becomes even more important. And that societal change should come where failure is accepted by yourself and you're not afraid or you're not competing with somebody else, but you're going and saying, I will give my best today and I'm happy giving my best. That's not the case today because we are being judged. And I think judgment comes because we have put up a competitive structure and that makes it very exclusive. So we need to make sport inclusive, and decisions like competitions need to be very carefully drawn out so that we have more and more people participating for a longer period of time. And even when they drop out, they have to go out of the sport with a positive mindset so that they're able to continue this journey and take the learnings of this journey in other parts of life and be successful. I think that would be very important. I know it's a tough thing because we need to have safe environments. When I say safe environments, it's not only physical, but I think it's these environments where people are not judgmental and critical, but I think they're encouraging and give positive feedback.
Absolutely, sir. And we have another question from, this name is a little weird, but it's CCC_Zimbabwe, Jalak Shah. So Jalak says, physically educated students are physically and mentally strong, but majority of them don't take academics seriously. Is it true? Like the ones who are like physically educated, they're not taking academics seriously? I don't think so. Like there are a lot of sports persons out there who are very literate, like engineers and doctors who have taken up sports and they are very serious about it. I think so. I don't know the specific answer. Even Neelam ma'am is shaking her head.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would not agree to that because it's just a myth, as we say. Just that we don't. It is not that
those who are bad at academics, they do it as an excuse. No, I'm good at sports. I'll not study.
Yeah, but I think sports can bring a lot of discipline there, and it's ensuring that we create, as we say, the environment where they are from. They need to have opportunities to embrace both, and then they can do wonderful. I think all players, because of the discipline that they get out of the sport, they can be very good in academics, and they have so many examples right from my institute. I'm sure Gopichand also would be able to share galores of them who have not attended school, missed exams, and still did reasonably well in exams.
Okay, and there are like a lot of questions coming up. Don't curse me or blame me if I miss out on anyone. Like this question is also interesting from Anil Romiji. He's asking like how to change the mindset of the parents, like the guardians, like how do they lay more emphasis on sports and non-scholastic areas. That's true. There are a lot of mom and dad out there who are like forcing their kids, to study hard for good results and not on the sports or dance activities, the physical activities. How to change that mindset of those parents? Like Preeti ma'am, if you can answer, how to change the mindset of the parents. Ma'am, you are on mute. Yes, ma'am.
I have faced this all my life, because you see all the parents who they bring their children to our center when they are about 4 or 5 years old, when they know that there's no pressure at school and they love to dance, and
right,
they come readily. But it is only when they reach class 7, 8, that's when they slowly come away. But one thing is there, that I have a system in my center that the moment they reach class 7, I have a meeting with them and I advise them and I counsel. You see, you have to have counseling sessions for parents too. In fact, parents need a lot of counseling. because the whole stress of this of achievement, see, I'm an achiever, we are all achievers in our own way. So the stress of achieving is so strong in them that they're not understanding that they are really putting so much pressure on the child. So I do this counseling with them, and I tell them that, listen, your child loves to dance, but I think she would be a better, in academics, or, let her pursue that, or let her pursue singing, or let her pursue sports. Because I've had some very good agile bodies coming in who are so good in, gymnastics, and who do so much of, and you can make out there for sports. So, that way, I have helped a lot of students in choosing their field at a young age, in physical activity. But the problem is that you have to counsel the parents, you have to, make them understand that, they have to, physical activity is as important as any other academics. And if they have good physical activity, they'll be better in academics, or they'll be better in whatever they do. So that itself is, when a child is stuck to his book the whole day, he's not going to perform, he's not going to do well. Sometimes a child, they say, oh, my child is studying for 24 hours, for 8 hours a day and 10 hours a day, sleeping 4 hours at night, but still the results are not good. Why? He doesn't get a break. She needs a break, he needs a break. They need to go out, they need to see, get fresh air, they need to jump around, they need to sweat. Sweating is so important, and that is, what we have to explain to them, and, do counseling. I feel that with me, counseling and then, I tell them, okay, let me try this with your child and see if it works. So a couple of times it's worked well. So then they get convinced that, no, physical activity is as good. And of course, dance and music is a winner. It's a winner. As today, whether they're doing a classical form or a folk form, or they're doing a martial art form, or they're doing just simple, they're playing a sport, every physical activity, including dance and music, is such a winner. So that itself, makes them understand. But yes, there are some parents who are very rigid, and then, it's like talking to a wall. So then you stop. I mean, you can do your best till a certain degree, right?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely right, and agree with you. And we do have a lot of questions coming in, but we are short on time, so we'll ask the man himself. We have Mr. Pulela Gopichan. So, sir, if you can please give the closing remarks of the session today.
I think it's been really wonderful to hear these stories of Neelam, Preeti ma'am, and Nixon sir. I think for me, I think more than ever before, physical literacy is the need of the hour. As a country, we are a young population. We don't want to be a young and sick population. I think, I know Atmanirbhar, I think Nixon sir spoke about it. I think that's a great thing. I think for us to be self-reliant, we need to have strong bodies. And I think to have physical activity is key component. And I think as a concept, it's great, but we need support from parents and PE teachers at grassroots levels in society, at all levels, to ensure that every person in the society is motivated and is competent and knowledgeable enough to take the responsibility of physical activity for life upon himself. The success of our story or our efforts or our programs would be when 30 years from now, these kids who become adults will be responsible for doing their physical activity, and that would be the key component. I think for me, I believe we are ready, because today more than ever, I think whether it's the Yoga Day or Swachh Bharat or Khelo India or initiatives, like I know many corporates, Tata Trust doing so much in so many areas. I think we have corporates, educations, and the new education policy talking about it. I think we have on this journey there, and sport is going to be big, but it should not be that sports for some people. I think sport for everyone is important. And when I say sport, I'm actually taking dance and other art forms, and any physical activity is important. And we need to use our country's vibrant culture to ensure that we don't miss out on those things, because I think as a society we have these not so expensive sports which have a local culture in it. We need to promote them, revive them, embrace them to ensure that we kind of take our population and make them more literate physically.
You're absolutely right, sir. Like, you're an inspiration on the wooden floor also, and you, with your words also, you do inspire. And it was amazing listening to you. You really
thank you.
grabbed us all with your words. And I'll ask Shuja if he's here, like, to give the word of thanks. And
yeah. So it was really wonderful listening to each one of you. And on behalf of the Indian Chamber of Commerce, I don't think I can thank all of you enough for taking up this initiative, because as Mr. Gopichand said, more than ever before, I think physical literacy has to be seen as the need of the hour. And I would thank Mr. Gopichand,
full volume sir.
Neela ma'am, Preeti ma'am, and Mr. Nixon, and of course Varun, for being here, for giving us so much of time. Special thanks to Elmsworth Foundation for partnering with us in bringing this forward, and we hope to work together on this in the days to come as well. I see certain questions still coming in. So if it is okay with all the panelists, the questions can be sent to us, can be emailed to us, and we would send the questions to all of you. And if you could please reply to them. That I think would benefit our participants. And with those words, I think thank you once again, and we look forward to seeing all of you again very soon. Thank you so much.
Sujoy. Thank you, Varun.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all of you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all of you.
It was very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gopi, I am Manisha. Gopi, I am Manisha speaking.